The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over the desolate land known as the Dust Plains. A dry wind blew through the cracked earth, carrying with it the scent of old ashes and dust. The world had changed a long time ago, and now all that was left were ruins of cities, empty streets, and forgotten memories. The earth had become a wild place, where only the strong survived. A small group of children sat huddled around a fire, their faces lit by the warm orange light. Their clothes were torn and dirty, and their eyes were tired. They had lived on their own for years, learning how to survive in this harsh world without the help of adults. They had learned to trust no one except each other. The group was led by 14-year-old Lily, a smart and resourceful girl who had taken on the role of their protector. Beside her sat Sam, the oldest of the group at 16, who was strong and quiet, always ready to fight for the others. There was also Mia, a 12-year-old with a sharp mind, and little Tommy, only 8, who was always full of questions. Together, they made their home in an old, abandoned building, a shelter from the storms and the dangers of the world outside. But tonight, as the children gathered around the fire, they were restless. Supplies were low, and they knew that soon they would have to leave this place and find somewhere else to hide. The thought of moving again, leaving behind everything they had built, weighed heavily on them. "Do you think we'll ever find something better than this?" Sam asked, looking into the fire. His voice was low, almost lost in the howling wind. "I don't know," Lily said, her voice uncertain. "We've been lucky for a while, but luck won't last forever." The others nodded, their faces filled with the same worry. They had been surviving, but barely. The world outside was dangerous. They had learned that the hard way. Suddenly a figure appeared in the distance, silhouetted against the setting sun. The children stiffened, eyes narrowing in suspicion. They had learned long ago that anyone who wandered too close to their home was either a threat or someone desperate for help. The figure was tall, with broad shoulders and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed their face. They wore a dusty leather jacket, and their steps were slow and deliberate. The children watched as the stranger moved closer, the wind carrying his scent, wood smoke, dirt, and something else. Something they couldn't place. Lily stood up, motioning for the others to stay quiet. "Who's that?" she whispered, her hand instinctively going to the small knife she kept hidden in her jacket. "Don't know," Sam replied, his eyes sharp. "But we don't trust strangers. Not anymore." The figure stopped a few feet away from the children, his posture calm and relaxed. He didn't seem worried, even though the children were watching him closely. "Ready to act if needed." "Evening," the man said, his voice deep and steady. The children didn't respond right away, but kept their eyes on him, waiting for him to make the next move. "I'm Jebediah Hawk," the man continued, tipping his hat slightly. "I've been watching you all for a while." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Watching us? Why?" Jebediah didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at each of the children carefully, his gaze soft yet serious. "I've seen your struggle," he said, "and I've seen your strength. You've survived this long for a reason." There was a moment of silence. The children exchanged uneasy glances. They had learned not to trust anyone, especially strangers who claimed to know them. Finally, Sam spoke up. "What do you want from us?" Jebediah smiled slightly. "Nothing. I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm here to offer something." The children were confused. "Offer what?" Lily asked, her voice wary. "Safety. A place where you can live without fear. A place where you don't have to struggle every day just to survive." The words hung in the air like a promise, one that felt too good to be true. The children knew that promises like that were often lies. They had been told lies before, by other groups, by people who came and went claiming to offer help only to leave them stranded or worse. "What's the catch?" Sam asked, his voice hard. "There's always a catch." "No catch," Jebediah said simply. "I run a ranch. It's not far from here. I've got food, water, animals to take care of. I'm looking for people who want to live better than this. You can come with me, all of you. I've been watching you for a long time, and I know you can make it." The words were tempting. They were everything the children had dreamed of: safety, food, a place to call home. But the trust was gone. It was hard to believe that someone would offer them something like this without wanting anything in return. "What do you want in return?" Lily asked, her voice firm. Jebediah shook his head. "Nothing. Just a chance to make sure the next generation survives." He paused as if weighing his next words carefully. "You've all been through a lot. I can help you." The silence stretched between them. The children exchanged looks. They were tired. Tired of always running, tired of always being hungry, tired of always fighting just to stay alive. The thought of a place where they could be safe seemed almost too good to believe. But Sam, who had always been the most cautious, shook his head. "We don't know you. We don't trust you. We've been burned before." Jebediah nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it," he said quietly. "But I'm not like them. I've built something real. You don't have to live like this anymore. You don't have to live in fear." The man's words carried weight, and for a moment the children were torn. They wanted to believe him. They wanted to believe that they could finally stop running, finally find peace. But it was hard to shake the feeling that this was just another trick. Finally, Lily spoke. "We'll think about it. But we're not just going to follow you." Jebediah didn't seem offended by the response. He simply nodded, tipping his hat again. "Fair enough. You've got every right to be cautious. I'm not going anywhere. Take your time." With that, the rancher turned and began walking back toward the horizon, his figure growing smaller and smaller in the fading light. As the sun set, the children sat in silence, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Could they trust this man? Was he really offering them a way out of the endless struggle? Or was it just another lie? But deep down, they all knew something had to change. They couldn't keep living like this forever. And maybe, just maybe, Jebediah Hawk was the chance they had been waiting for. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty. The children couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about Jebediah's offer. But deep down, they all knew that staying in the dust plains was no longer an option. Supplies were running out. The danger was always just around the corner, and the thought of a place where they could finally be safe was tempting. Still, the question lingered. Could they really trust this man? After much debate, they made the decision to follow Jebediah. The promise of safety and a better life was something they couldn't ignore. The next morning, they packed up their meager belongings, gathered around one last time in their makeshift home, and began their journey. Jebediah led them through the barren landscape, his pace steady and confident. The children, though uncertain, followed behind. They didn't speak much during the walk. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts, wondering what they were walking into. The journey felt long, and as the sun dipped lower in the sky, they began to wonder if they had made the right choice. The landscape around them started to change. The cracked earth gave way to patches of green, small bushes and shrubs growing in the otherwise dry land. They came across a small stream, clear and fresh, something none of them had seen in years. The air began to feel fresher, too, and the heat of the dust plains started to fade. After several hours of walking, they reached the edge of a large valley. The land here was even more different. Lush fields of green and tall trees lined the valley floor. In the distance, they could see a large building, standing proudly against the backdrop of the mountains. It was a large ranch, but unlike any ranch the children had ever seen. There were rows of neatly planted crops, fenced-in pastures with animals grazing, and structures that seemed much sturdier and more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. As they entered the ranch, the children's eyes widened in awe. They had never seen anything like this. There was water, clean, flowing water. There were animals, cows, goats, and even horses. The ranch had everything they could have dreamed of: food, shelter, and security. It was a paradise compared to the world they had left behind. Jebediah gave them a brief tour of the ranch. "This is where you'll be safe," he explained. "You'll have your own space, food, and work to do. You'll learn how to take care of the animals, grow crops, and build a future. This is the chance you've been waiting for." At first, the children were unsure. Everything seemed too perfect, too easy. But as the days passed, they began to settle into the routine. They helped with chores, fed the animals, and learned about farming. They had their own rooms in small houses on the property, and they could finally sleep without worrying about raiders or wild animals. For the first time in years, they felt a sense of peace, but not all of them were convinced. Sam, in particular, grew more and more suspicious of Jebediah. Something about the man's calmness, the way he always seemed to be watching them, didn't sit right with him. Jebediah's offer was too perfect, too convenient. And while the ranch was peaceful, Sam couldn't help but feel like something was being kept from them. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Sam decided to go for a walk. He needed some space to think. He had always been the cautious one, the one who questioned everything. As he wandered through the ranch, he found himself near the back of the property, where the land started to slope down into a dense forest. There, hidden behind some trees, he saw something strange. It was a building, small, tucked away in the shadows. It didn't look like one of the regular ranch buildings. This one was made of metal and concrete, and it was half buried beneath the earth. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint light flickered from inside. Curious, Sam crept closer. He knew he shouldn't be snooping around, but something told him he needed to see what was inside. He pushed the door open carefully and slipped inside. The building was cold, the air heavy with the smell of old machinery. There were rows of strange devices lining the walls, large tanks filled with liquid, computers with flickering screens, and strange medical equipment he didn't recognize. At the back of the room was a large tank, and inside it there was a person, or at least it looked like a person. Sam froze. The figure in the tank was floating in a strange greenish liquid. It was hard to make out the details, but there was something unsettling about the way the person was suspended. The figure's skin was pale, and their eyes were closed as if they were sleeping. But there was a strange, almost mechanical quality to them, as if they were something more than human. His heart began to race. What was this place? And why had Jebediah brought them here? Suddenly he heard a noise behind him. He spun around to find Jebediah standing in the doorway, his face unreadable. "What are you doing here, Sam?" Jebediah asked, his voice calm but firm. Sam's mind raced, but he forced himself to speak. "What is this place? What are these machines?" Jebediah's gaze softened for a moment, and he sighed. "I didn't want you to find this, not yet. But you're smarter than I gave you credit for." He stepped into the room and walked toward the tank. "This is part of the work I've been doing for years. This is my family's legacy. We were trying to build a better future for humanity, one that could survive in this broken world. These people in the tanks, they're part of a project. We were trying to make humans who could thrive in this new world, who could survive anything." Sam's heart sank as he understood. Jebediah wasn't just a rancher. He was part of an experiment, and the children were more than just survivors. They were part of a plan, something much bigger than they could have imagined. "I brought you here because I believe you're part of that future," Jebediah continued. "You and the others, you're stronger than most people. You can survive the harshest conditions. You're part of what we were trying to create, a new generation of humans who can rebuild the world." Sam's mind was spinning. He had thought Jebediah was helping them, offering them safety, but now he realized the truth. They weren't just being helped, they were being used. "I don't want to be part of this," Sam said, his voice shaking. "We're not your experiments." Jebediah's face softened, but his eyes were firm. "You have a choice, Sam. I'm giving you the chance to be part of something bigger. You can stay, help me finish what we started, and you'll be safe. Or you can leave, but the world out there is dangerous. You won't survive on your own." For the first time since they arrived, Sam felt a chill run down his spine. The world outside might be harsh, but could he really trust Jebediah? Could he stay here, knowing the truth about what this place really was? He stood there for a moment, struggling with his decision. Finally, he spoke. "I'll leave," Sam said, his voice steady. "I don't want any part of your experiments." Jebediah nodded slowly. "I understand. But remember, Sam, I'm offering you a chance to be part of something important. If you change your mind, the door is always open." Sam didn't answer. He turned and left the room, his mind racing. The ranch wasn't the sanctuary they thought it was. Jebediah had been playing a dangerous game, and the children had become pawns in it. As Sam walked back to the others, he knew one thing for certain. The ranch might have been a place of safety, but it wasn't their home. They had to find their own way out, their own future, and they would have to do it without Jebediah.